on the Liberian Dream series here. And this today is going to be a fascinating one. And the topic of today's conversation is the country devil has jurisdiction. And I will start by laying my premise. So it's okay when you feel uncomfortable because I know this is a very uncomfortable conversation that we tend to shy away from many of the time. It is the law of Liberia. So let me start first of all by saying Liberia has a dual legal system, customary law and the formal justice system in Liberia. I'm not the one saying this. This is what our constitution says. So what that means is our formal justice systems that we know as we know it, and the customary laws of Liberia as we know it. Now that means when you leave our urban areas, I will argue that majority of the country actually adheres to customary law. That is the only reason why we have law and order or some semblance of order across the country because of customary law. It's very clear that our formal judicial or justice or legal system does not have the capacity, neither the resources to be able to service the length and breadth of our country. But let's go back a little bit into history here. Before 1822 or 1847, there was forms of governance in Liberia. There were customary laws, or what is now called Liberia. There were systems of governance in place. There were traditions of the land from which customary laws derived, right? Now ask yourself, in spite of 1847 with independence and the coming in of our formal justice system, in spite of more than 100 years of misrule of the True Wing Party, in spite of the military coups that we witnessed, in spite of the full-scale civil war that we went through, the structures of customary law have withstood the test of time at all levels. So this was the reason why about 6 or 7 years ago, there were some key recommendations by the international legal system. The International Legal Assistance Consortium is called. Did an extensive research into the dual legal system of the Republic of Liberia. And here are some of the things that I came up with. They said there should be a serious attention paid in addressing the dysfunctionalities of the formal justice system. Nobody needs to tell you that. We don't need a researcher to tell us that our formal justice system is in a complete dysfunction. They also said we should be intentional about helping customary justice achieve greater harmony with the Constitution. So customary laws have been neglected by the formal justice system. In essence, our traditions, our traditional laws of the land have been rejected. They've refused to acknowledge them, even though our people, majority of our population live up to them. In fact, it's the only way majority of our population are able to seek any form of justice is through customary laws. When you go to the interiors, when you go to the countryside, when you go out of any urban setting, the town chiefs, right? The traditional societies become the custodian of what should happen. And let me say what I'm going to say this. Recently, we witnessed the electoral violence in Bapolu County involving now Senator Botokane and the electoral fracas and violence that erupted. And there was a huge argument when the country devil that we like to call it, and I'm using the term country devil for the sake of this conversation in our Liberian parlance, because that's what we call it. Now, get it straight. I'm not talking about traditional max dancers. There are traditional max dancers in Liberia we also call the same. What I'm talking about are the custodians of our traditional societies that are also referred to as the devil. For example, when you go up interior, when you hear to say the devil is coming out, everybody has to go inside, right? Only certain people are allowed to be outside. And people were saying that everybody condemned the fact that the devil came out of the society bush to seize the ballot box, and the devil had no place in doing that. Is that true? I would argue that that is not true, because in those places, the only semblance of law and order whenever these things happen is usually when the traditional society custodians are brought in to restore calm. The same way the Liberian National Police would have been called, the Ministry of Justice would have sent in people to try and restore calm by arresting the situation and having the authority to seize the ballot box. If we say we are running a dual legal system, where there is a formal justice system and customary law, then I would argue that yes, the country devil had jurisdiction to intervene. Now, the way it intervened, was it proper or not? We can have that argument differently. The same way we argue often when the Liberian National Police intervene in situations as to whether they conducted themselves properly or did it properly or not. But that is a separate argument. But I think it's unfair for anybody to argue that the country devil had no jurisdiction in Bapolu County to come in, seize the ballot box or seize the ballot boxes and restore calm. And it did work when the Liberian National Police was overrun, when there was no other authority in town to have brought the situation under control. Now, were the conduct of everybody that participated proper or done properly or whatever, that's a different argument. And we can scrutinize that and talk about where things went wrong. But we cannot deny the fact unless we don't know our laws. And this is the fundamental problem. This is why I do the Liberian Drain. Because I think the miseducation of our people, the lack of understanding of ourselves, have led us down a rabbit hole that we don't seem to understand where to go, or we don't seem to understand how to deal with our problems. We keep seeking things that we do not understand, in my opinion. How can you build up a system for yourself when you do not even know the ones you already have? And this is what I've argued. At the University of Liberia, customary law is taught. But guess what? It is an optional course. You don't have to take it. So think about a lawyer in Liberia practicing law and does not understand customary law, right? Because it was an optional course at the Louis Arthur Graham School of Law. You could choose to take it or choose not to actually take it. It's up to you. When, in my opinion, it should be mandatory because it serves the majority of our population. The majority of our population cannot afford a formal justice system. It's too expensive. This is the reason why we are seeing rape cases and all of these things, and nobody is able to take it anywhere because they cannot afford the cost of justice through the formal justice system. Now, we have this dilemma where there have been a challenge with people arguing Sasewood and all of these things, if they're legal or not legal. And sometimes you hear political leaders will come out and ban them. You cannot ban your own justice system. The debate we need to be having is our customary justice system or our customary laws, do we even understand them? Do people know what they are? Are we able to even improve them? Are they adequate? If they are not, how do we develop them? And this is what this research by the International Legal Assistance Consortium came up with, that you need to be able to help that customary justice system achieve greater harmony with the Constitution. That means getting down to it, looking at it, what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And this is why I make the argument all the time that as Liberians, we've come to a place where we're constantly running away from ourselves. We're afraid of ourselves. We're trying to be everybody else but ourselves, right? We live in a country where we say we have a dual legal system, a formal justice system and customary laws. But at the same time, everybody tell you the country that way is bad. Everybody tell you people castigate the poorer societies, the sender societies. Now, do not get me wrong. The same way in the formal justice system, there is miscarriage of justice all the time. There are all kinds of laws, inadequate laws on the book or the lack thereof on the book that people complain about. And we all advocate to try and get it better, to improve it. It's the same way we are supposed to be doing with customary laws, I would argue. I will give you a simple example. Those of us who have had opportunity to live in Western countries, right? The cultures of these countries have had some very horrible things. You remember at one point the issue of slavery was acceptable, right? Was a part of the culture here, enslaving Black people. In fact, it was seen as an economic strategy. It was acceptable as part of this culture, right? Guess what? Our advocacy against it and all of the things that happen improve it to where it is. Now, think about it. Did Western societies get rid of their cultures altogether because there were bad things inside? No, they did not. We come to Western societies, most of us. We are willing to take on the cultural demands of these societies, sometimes against our religion, against our faith, against our own humanity, but we have no choice because it's the law. But then we go to our own country and then we castigate our entire culture because of challenges that we face. And nobody wants to have a conversation about it. Everybody seems to be sidestepping it because it's too sensitive to talk about it. How can we solve problems when we're not? Let me have a conversation about a very sensitive topic that nobody wants to talk about. Everybody's sidestepping it. The issue of what we call female genital mutilation, FGM, which we've now learned, science have taught us, that is a bad practice. It's harmful. It destroys a lot of women biologically. In fact, it has the potential of even resulting to death. And all type of different harm that it does to women. However, what do? We get up and say we will form movements against it instead of us including on in our national discussion intentional decisions in engaging our traditional elders and leaders to sit down and brainstorm solutions. And let me come back for those of you who are just joining. When we say the country devil, we're not talking about traditional max dancers that you see in the marketplace. They say, oh, the girl devil dancing, or you see, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the custodian of our traditional societies. So you've heard of the Poro Society, you heard of the Sanders Society. For those of you who've been up interior to spend time or whatever, there will be times that you hear that the devil has to come outside because there is a major issue in the town that has to be dealt with or taken care of. And they're bringing the devil outside, and everybody must go in. Only certain people are allowed to come outside. So when I'm talking about the country devil, in a sense, I'm talking about the custodian of our traditional societies. Now, I'm not here to argue with you about it being right or wrong, but the Liberian dream says we need to understand who we are. We need to understand where we've come from, because then we can carve the pathway to where we need to go as a society. And that is the argument I want to make. That is the conversation I want to have. Because as I was saying, the issue of female genital mutilation, we want to solve this problem. If we really, really want to deal with this problem, then we should not be having conferences in Washington, D.C. We should not be having conferences in London and New York and Geneva. The conferences should be held in Nima County, in Ganta, in Sanekoli, in Bon County, in those places where the custodians of our society, who are the ones who understand and keep our cultures intact, they should be at the table discussing these things. Our presidents, our political leaders should be organizing these massive engagement opportunities. Come to them and say, you know what, to you, our elders, we understand you are the custodian of our culture. We have a serious concern here. We can show you evidence of how this particular practice in our cultures is harming our women, is destroying our women. We need you. We will provide the investment, we'll provide the financial resources and the facilities. We need you to go and hang your head, like we can say in Liberia, to come up with solutions as to how we can change these practices to avoid the damage that is being done. No, what do? We just say it. And in fact, many times the way we do it, we attack the culture. And I can assure you, whenever you attack these things, all people do is our traditional people put up their defenses. And you are incapable of defeating it that way. There's no way you can defeat it through a fight, because some of these practices and traditions are older than your entire generation, right? They've been here for hundreds of years. And it's not easy to call for this deep cultural shift. That's the reason why I will call on people with the resources, political leaders, the influence with the microphones, that you don't need to start coming on social media everywhere and castigating and berating your entire culture because of a certain bad practice. We need to start engaging our elders and traditional leaders, first of all, to provide the education for them to be able to understand why a certain practice is not okay, why a certain practice is problematic. And then we need to make the necessary investment to be able to show them a pathway of changing this stuff. Look, let me tell you, if our elders are the custodians of the society, we should be counting on engaging and brainstorming their leadership for changing certain things in our traditions that are not okay. We're only looking at female genital mutilation, not just one thing. There are many other things. And our failure to invest into our own culture and evolving and developing it is what we are faced with now today, that there are issues that we should have been dealing with as a people, as a country a long time ago. But what we did, we dismissed our own tradition for a long time. We felt we were too good to participate in it. We felt we were too good to be a part of it. But little did we know that up to today's date, the majority of our population is the only way they can make semblance of their own life. It's all that they know. They can never wear three-piece coat suits and long tail coats and fur hats. No, they're not able to. They can never build houses with microwaves and stuff in it. So they rely on these things. They can never be able to access our formal justice system. It's too expensive for them. They cannot afford lawyer fees. They cannot be able to understand how not to prepare a child to face the realities of the world than going to an academic school to do an academic exercise many a times that remove them away from the actual realities of the world. We all went to academic school. They cannot understand how we can dismiss and neglect our own systems and bring in, borrow a system from someone else and photocopy and paste it, not to make our existing system better, but to erase it, to dismiss it, to get rid of it. What's wrong with evolving ourselves? Right? I can tell you today, advocacy does not mean you should always attack. It should be to engage, to discuss, to find common grounds to bring about solutions, because you can attack and fight for your whole life, like we've been saying, and change nothing. You can engage and get people to a place of common understanding and then bring about change. Let's have this conversation. What do? Majority of us, we castigate our traditional societies. We're okay with joining other organizations and other fraternities that nobody knows what they do there, but we have a problem with the poor and center society. We should improve it. We should make it better. The things that we know now, we should be able to rely on our knowledge and education now to engage our people, to bring them along as well, to empower them to be able to champion this change, but not to disempower them and make them feel useless and irrelevant to the process, because we can come to Washington, D.C. and do PowerPoint presentation and show all the harmful effects, which are valid, of our culture. What about the positive effect? Who's talking about the positive effects? What about that? What about the fact that the poor and center societies and other traditional societies were the only school when there were no formal schools? What about the fact that only a minority of our population has access to the formal education system, as we call it, and the rest of them have zero access? That is the reason why we're having a dysfunction. Because of our dismissal of our traditional cultural societies and our bush schools, like I would like to call them, our failure to improve them and invest in them. If you don't have access to the formal education system and now you've been taught to reject your own tradition and culture, so we have a huge portion of our population growing up with having no way to figure out how they too can be part of the Liberian dream. No way to figure out. They got no place. They don't fit in the formal education system. At the same time, they've been told, don't go to bush school, and you're too good for it. We got people coming out of our formal education system that don't even know their responsibilities, their simple responsibilities to the society. The same thing. Think about it. The bush schools, customary laws have survived the test of time. They're older than the Republic of Liberia. How is it not innovation enough to say, you know what? We need to dig deeper and understand our customary systems. How come they've been able to survive all these years, these challenges, without any investment in them at all? When I think about it, if we were making the necessary investment into our customary laws and our customary systems, you know what will happen? Today, our bush schools will be castles in the forest. Will be well developed, well equipped, will be well laid out, so that we would have identified the things that we need to improve and make better, remove the things that we need to change as we continue to evolve and get more and more education about the makeup of our society. And today, it would have been an alternative to the formal education system. If you can go to school and score letter grades and score A, B's, and C's and read the white man language, you should still have an opportunity to participate in Liberian Dream. You should still have an opportunity to be a productive citizen of the Republic of Liberia. We can just set up this quasi system that you either go to school and score letter grades and get some kind of degree, or you're useless to society. And worst of all now, even those who are going through that formal education system and getting degrees, we're still telling them they're useless to society because they don't have a certain last name. We're still telling them they're useless to society because greed have allowed us to corrupt the entire system, that no matter, you can be the brightest, you may not have a space if you don't agree to participate in the corruption. So this is my argument. The country devil has jurisdiction. Educate yourself now. The sooner we can start to find ways to help our customary justice system to achieve greater harmony with the formal legal system, the more trouble we are running into. If you think the customary justice system does not have any jurisdiction, if you think the country devil, as we call it, does not have jurisdiction, go up interior, misbehave, and you will find out whether it has jurisdiction or not. You will have a rude awakening. You will have a rude awakening as to what you didn't realize, as to how powerful our customary legal systems are. We'll be opening the lines for some calls as well. I don't know if our phones are ready. I think it's on there. I see the numbers on there, but we'll take some comments. I'm answering if you can hear me there in the back, if we can see if we can pop up some. Let's see some of the comments and some of the feedback from our audience. So while we're actually getting that, again, if you're just coming, we're talking about the Liberian dream and how we should be empowering everybody to participate and not disempowering our people from participating in it, only leaving it to 10 to 20% of our population, which is what it's always been. Whenever we think of our country, we always think about who we can exclude. No, the Liberian dream is saying whenever we think of Liberia, we should be looking for who is excluded that we need to bring into the fray. That is the essence of the Liberian dream. The essence of the Liberian dream should not be because the small or the small percentage of our population that can afford and manage to access the formal education system are the only ones that will ever have access to anything in the country. The Liberian dream should be the children who will only have the only opportunity to have in their life is to go to bush school should also be appreciated, should be supported, and given the opportunity to become productive members of our society. I would argue that, in fact, people who participated in bush schools are more disciplined, are the most disciplined members of our society than those who did not. In the same way, we should accept not everybody will go to the bush schools as well. And these are the type of conversations we need to be having. That is okay. Some people may be well suited for the formal education system. But guess what? That formal education system is not capable of serving even 50% of the population. It's woefully inadequate. So what are you telling us? Only the people who the formal education system can serve has access to participate in what should be the Liberian dream. And the majority of our population who, because of marginalization, and sometimes it doesn't even make sense to them, going to study a governance system, a political system, an education system that we photocopy, that we are yet to contextualize as to how it makes sense for our local settings. Please help me understand. Why are we building boxes in our country for houses and buildings? Because we come and copy Western architecture. What's wrong with the huts that our people build in the villages that over 50 years they are still there? Your grandma lives inside, your great-grandma lives inside, your great-great-grandma is still there. What's wrong with looking at that technology? You may not realize that technology is based on a very unique system of fractals and developing it and, and modernizing it. What's wrong with that? But every day we come, we fly here, we photocopy Western architecture that we can't even do well. And then we make horrific mistakes. We're building buildings in Liberia at 12 o'clock midday in sunshine, in a country that we got 12 months of sunshine. Those buildings are just dark. The whole country, the whole city of Monrovia is noisy with generator 12 o'clock midday because lights have to be on. How? Like, you think about it, right? It is the missed opportunity of not developing what we've got. Go to Liberia. All day, you go to government ministry or whatever, generator got to be on. Every room you enter, the lights got to be on because it's dark. Because it's dark. That is not what it's about. It's because we decided to photocopy everything, the same thing we did. We came to Liberia when we're forming a nation called Republic of Liberia. There were already systems of governance in the country. But because we felt we were too good for it at the time, we dismissed it, came to the United States, photocopied our constitution. And remember, the type of governance we're photocopying from the United States was the same type of governance that legalized slavery as a practice. So when you wonder how over 100 years, our brothers and sisters decided to implement the same system of enslaving other people, their own traditional people, enslave them for them to be able to get ahead. You wonder where it came from? It didn't come from anywhere. It came from the photocopy and paste, because that was the horrific mistake we made. We did not sit down and say, okay, clearly our brothers and sisters who came back from the United States and other places had a different experience. Our people who are still on the continent in what is now Liberia had a different experience. How do we sit down and figure out how to create a nation that will be built on the interests of all of us at the same time, rather than just dismiss what was there because one group fell, their experience was superior to the other group? And guess which one has survived now? The one that has survived is the one that was dismissed. It's still the one that serves the greater majority of the Liberian population, in my opinion. It still is. African traditional spirituality, and I'm not here to talk about religion, because I know we're quick to narrow it down to religion. It's not about religion, it's about who you are. And until we can get to a place as Liberians, as accepting our story, until we can stop trying to be everything that we are not, until we can stop pretending that we want to make ourselves to be part of the Ghanaian story, until we can stop pretending to make ourselves to be part of the Ivorian story, the Sierra Leonean story, until we can accept our own unique story as a people, as a country, accept it, embrace it, and then develop it and build it up, we're going nowhere. And this is why I argue that I haven't seen any serious politician running to be president for Liberia. I haven't seen any serious politician that has even an understanding of where we need to go as a nation. None, because most of the people that are running to be politicians have zero understanding of our country itself. They only understand the 10% of it on the political angle. They don't even have an understanding to understand the depth of the cultural understanding of the makeup of our country. So what will end up happening, anybody who becomes president will only serve the interests of the 10 to 20 or 25% of our population who only participate in this formal political education justice system. And we miss more than 50% of our population who has no space, who are unable to participate in that. Not because they don't want to, but sometimes they should have the right not to want to. Because there is a clash between the two. And we keep pretending like we're not aware of it. We keep pretending that we're not aware of it. Anthony, are you there? Can we go through some of the comments? Do we have some of the comments that we can pop on our screen here so we can take a look at some of the feedback? Emmanuel Jackson said, good afternoon, Brother Leo from Boston. Good afternoon, Emmanuel Jackson. Good to see you. Hazenberg, Q Topa say, I agree 100%. Thank you, Hazenberg. Hazenberg say, our advocacy shouldn't attack, but engage to effect the needed change we seek. Agree with you. Emmanuel Jackson said, I totally agree with you. University of Liberia be converted to a technical college with job placement for graduates after completion of studies in the private sector industry. So those of you who may be wondering, that was a different podcast that I did in the past, where I said, in my opinion, the best way for Liberia is to have the University of Liberia transform into a technical college to be so that it can be at a place where it can serve the needs of the country. So that was a different topic there. Hazenberg Tokpa said, gay practice now becomes a culture of the Western world, yet our advocacy movements don't attack the practice, but we're always attacking our own culture like FGM to get funding from the Western world. Again, the Western world has evolved. For a long time here, the issue of gay rights was rejected. And even up to today, it's still rejected by many parts of Western society. But they continue to evolve. They've gotten to a place where it's now an acceptable practice and their human rights are protected as well, right? But we are not doing the same thing in terms of understanding our own culture to evolve it and develop it. Instead, we are attacking it and saying we should abolish it because of things that we disagree with. And I will fundamentally disagree with that. You can never change who you are. You can make yourself a better person, but you cannot run away from who you are. Who you are is who you are. The quicker you can acknowledge your flaws, work on them, make them better. The ones you know are not good, change them. So because you have a bad habit of drunkenness, we should kill you? No. We should fight to empower you, right? We should fight to empower you. It should not be, oh, because you are a drunkard, so we should kill you. Or because you are an armed robber and you went and armed rob, so the justice system should just kill you too. And it's because you have a bad attitude? Is that what we should do? Because that's what we're saying with our culture. Should we kill our culture because of things that we have come to acknowledge that are not right, are wrong, or harmful? Or should we be working to change it? And let me tell you this today. This is the same practice we use in social work for those of you who work in social work. When you want to engage someone who's addicted to drugs or substance abuse or whatever that is, you don't go to them and tell them, look how bad of a person you are, you are wicked, you are bad. No, you engage them from a place of understanding, from a place of empathy first, of trying to understand why they do that. And then you engage them from a place of love and trying to help them understand that you would like to empower them. You help them see reason why that particular attitude that they're doing is wrong. And then you provide opportunities for empowerment. You don't go to them and castigate them and call them you drug addicts. You don't pass up in the street, round up all the drug addicts and put them in jail. So why don't we not implement the same type of strategy? Why don't we use the same thing with our culture? Why don't we constantly, but the only way we can do that is if we're willing to examine it, is if we're willing to constantly evaluate it, if we're willing to embrace it, accept it, and if we're willing to acknowledge the things that we need to change. But everybody nitpicking. When we get international guest visit, we take our culture, we use it as marketing content. We use it to entertain guests. We use our culture, important cultural practices as entertainment products. When our international guest goes or our international guests leave, we dismiss our culture and our traditional people back to the villages and the bushes with zero impact or zero investment in their lives. But when our big guests and people are coming to visit, we put on an entertainment display for them. We display cultures we know nothing about. We'll be opening the phone lines now for those of you who might like to call in and make your contribution. The number will be 605-313-6004. And the code will be 791403 hash, or you can call it a number sign as well. So you can dial in. If you want to disagree as well, hit the call button. If you want to contribute as well, hit the call button. Let's have this conversation. Let me tell you today, I'm young. I cannot say much about pre-war Liberia. I can say very little about that, except where the scattered things that we see around, because apparently all of our educated people got together to connive that they will not tell us a concise, consistent account or give us a consistent account of our history. So we are just getting pieces of it. The other person can get their own narrative and version and say because they were there, and anybody else try to chastise and question them, they dismiss you and say because they were there and you were not there. If we are a serious country, let's consistently be able to document these things. But hit the call button. If you have disagreements, help me. If you have a way of educating us as well, let's exchange ideas. So pick up the phone and call, and we'll be happy to take your call in. But this is the conversations we should be having. I've said 2023 election is a lost cause. Anybody who can tell you that they're able to transform Liberia by dismissing and disempowering majority of our population is a fraud. And this is what people are telling you. Think about it when politicians are running, when people ask them for their policies. 90% of their policies are about the 20%. How do we fix the education system? When they say education system, that a formal education system where already majority of people cannot access. How do we fix the healthcare system? When they say fix the healthcare system, the hospital system that are built is so expensive that most of our people cannot access. When they tell you they will build roads, what are they telling you? They will build quota roads. When they say they will build helps people with houses, that these boxes that they go and put down, that our native people don't know how to maintain. Instead of improving and developing what our people know well, instead of using the innovation our people have to build on it and get it to a place where it can be admirable. Let me tell you something. When I went to Accra the first time and for the first time when I saw the new presidential palace, that is a replica of the Ghanaian traditional stool, I couldn't be more proud. I'm not even a Ghanaian. I was just super proud that somebody is thinking, right? In Liberia now, what do we have? We dismiss our culture and our traditional people. We got no building with Pele writing on it, or Gio writing, or Crown writing, or Grebo writing, but we got building with Chinese writings on it in Liberia. How is that not a problem? How nobody sees that being problematic? We agree, Chinese people force us that we must put Chinese writing on our building. How much of our population can speak Mandarin or Cantonese or whichever one that they wrote there? But we could not think for ourselves that our buildings too should have Pele writing on them, Bassa writing on them, Gio writing on them, but we got Chinese writing on them. Right? We took French and made it an official subject in our education system. However, we dismiss all of our own languages, not one. In fact, more people cannot speak our languages more and more every day. But French is meant, you must take French in our education system. We all read French in our education system. I'll be honest with you, and it's so inadequately taught that we don't remember it by the time we leave. We wouldn't memorize and pass. But nobody tells you that it is important for us to have our own traditional languages and dialects as part of our education system. You think about how backward that is. How is it rocket science? In Ghana, I think 11 or 13 of the local languages are taught in the education system. In Cote d'Ivoire, Jula, which is the equivalent of what we call Mandingo in Liberia, is taught in the education system. And on and on and on. It's because they value who they are. And we don't need to take their story. Stop pasting again. Don't copy and paste. This copy and pasting we did in 1822, 1847, led us down the route we are. Let's look at best practices around the place. Let's understand them. And then let's look at ourselves and see what is contextual for our own story. And let's look at the things that we already have, our own assets, our own values that we already have. But we cannot keep this. So get it right. If you never understood today, you should stop your disrespect to the traditional societies in your country, devil, because they have absolute jurisdiction in the Republic of Liberia. It was legal for the country devil to come outside in Bapulu country during the election and seize the ballot box and restore calm and order. There was nothing illegal about that. Those of you who have condemned it, you need to think twice. And I challenge anybody, please call on here and prove me wrong. Show me how it was not okay or acceptable for the country devil to come outside and the country devil did not come outside when everything was going well and he just came outside to disrupt the process. No. It came outside when violence erupted and the Liberian National Police was incapable to deal with it or was not present or did not have the manpower to actually deal with it. So when things were going on in the country, and guess what? Calm was restored. Now, was the conduct of how it was done proper or whatever? We can debate that. The facts, and we can debate it because I heard there were people being abused, the allegations of people being raped and all that stuff, right? If that happened, that is wrong. And that's not what I'm talking about. But I'm talking about people debating whether or not the country has jurisdiction in the first place. Yes, it does. It has jurisdiction and the legal grounds for it to have come out. The same way you trust that the Ministry of Justice can seize the ballot box as well, you better start trusting that the country devil should seize it as well, because it's just the same equivalent. The country devil and the traditional societies are the equivalent of the Justice Ministry when it comes to the maintenance, interpretation, and implementation of customary law. That is a fact, and we don't need to actually debate that. It is a fact. It is the truth. It is the law. The country devil has absolute jurisdiction. And you can disagree all you want. Show me how is it illegal in the Liberian Constitution. Because it is the same Constitution that says we have a dual legal justice system. One is the formal justice system and the other one is the customary justice system. That's the reason why they teach customary law at LU. But what baffles you, you will wonder, how is it an optional course or an elective course at the University of Liberia? So we're treating lawyers who we're telling, don't waste your time on understanding customary law. Take it if you care. If you're interested, go ahead, take it. But you're not obligated to. And then we wonder why our system is dysfunctional. We wonder why we can't get anywhere. And all I'm saying in the Liberian dream is, I'm not telling you customary laws are perfect. I'm not telling you they are great. I'm not telling you they are excellent. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm telling you that they are legal, and it has jurisdiction. So the sooner we all can start to understand it, so we can realize what its flaws are and the challenges are and correct it, the better we will be. Or else we can continue living this falsehood of thinking that we are America and we can photocopy the American Constitution and it makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense. That's the reason why we have a constitution that are unenforceable. That's the reason why only a minority portion of our population is ever able to access our formal justice system. It's too expensive. It's justice for sale. They can't afford it. That's why we should give them an option. That's why the customary, in fact, that was the whole thinking behind why the customary system became, acceptable and made a part of our legal system. That was the thinking behind it, because it served majority of our population still. And they had the underlying institutions to withhold it. Whether it's right or wrong, that's a different debate. That is not my argument. My argument is it's legal, it's the law, and the law is the law. You cannot pick and choose. The same way you say in the formal justice system that the law is the law, you cannot discriminate, pick and choose. It's the same way. And thank you, Anthony. This is our customary traditional systems. Whether you like it or not, it has jurisdiction. And you should ask yourself, why every country you go to, every tribe you go to, why is it so revered? Why is it so upheld? Why is it so respected? Ask yourself the question. You think all of those people for over 200 years, all of them just crazy? They just choose to be crazy people? Some of the most disciplined people you can find. The same people we like to respect as our elders. You think what molded them? You think why they are who they are today? It was through these systems. Do they have problems? Yes, they have problems like everybody else. But are you telling us we should destroy it and throw it away and dismiss it, something that is indigenous to the land, only because of the problems that it has, rather than fixing it? Does it serve any value? It serves enormous value. And I will argue that the benefits outweighs the negative. So let's fix the negative. It has a lot of benefit to it. But no, when it's time for political campaign, you all want to identify with it. When it's time for international guests coming in the country, that's when you want to identify with its importance. Using your culture as a marketing tool is disrespectful. Or using your culture as marketing content is disrespectful. So get it clear. If you haven't educated yourself, do some reading. Just Google a little bit. You'll find some information. It will not be as extensive, but read a little bit. Right? Our traditional societies are not the only forms of fraternities. I don't even like to equate it to a fraternity because I think it's much bigger than a fraternity. It's much bigger than that. It is innately indigenous to who we are. And we can accept it or we can run away from it. And for me, these are the type of discussions we should be having. As our leaders, our political leaders, people who want to be president. Do you understand this? And what do you think of it? Customary law is legal in Liberia, the country that has jurisdiction, the country that was absolutely right to come out in Bapolu County and seize the ballot boxes. Because there was violence and the Liberian National Police was nowhere around to be able to deal with it. So the only other rule of law that was possible to be called upon was the customary system. And yes, the people invoked the country that were coming out. So you better get comfortable with the country that was seizing the ballot boxes. And if the process by which they did it was not proper, the same way we can bring the National Police under scrutiny when their operations happen are not proper, it's the same way we should bring under scrutiny and talk about the processes, but not to come with this disrespectful dismissal that the country that has nothing to do in electioneering politics. Says who? Says you? It's time for us to read. And these comments were coming from some of our most educated lawyers and legal minds in the country, by the way, which baffled me. Again, the numbers are there if you want to call, please. Calling and make your contributions, or disagree if you want as well. But for me, I bring up this topic, and part of the Liberian dream is we should be brave enough to openly discuss these things, and let's learn from each other. Say our people decided they will not write anything about our educated people, decided they will not read no book about our history, about our country, about the truth. This is the only other option we have. Come about, talk about what we think we know and understand or whatever, and allow the people who think if we are wrong, come and prove us wrong. And let's talk about it. This is healthy for our country. It's healthy for our democracy. You know, one thing I will say, the challenge we're facing in Liberia is this. We photocopy systems of governance. And now what we're trying to do is to force the type of culture that underlies that system of governance. We did not contextualize it for it to make sense, which is what many successful democracies did. Go to Ghana. See the level of respect that comes to the customary system. You will open your mouth. When President Jerry Rawlings died, did you watch the ceremonies? Did you watch the ceremonies? You understand when you watch the funeral of President Jerry Rawlings. In Canada, that some of us are familiar with, right? In Canada, the Queen can suspend the elected members of Parliament. They call it the Westminster system of democracy. They are right next door to America. In Canada, Canada has built a democratic system to contextualize it to their own culture. Since the Queen is a big part of their culture, the Queen of England can suspend the elected members of the Canadian Parliament if there is something they need to get done through the legal governance system, and they feel like it will not be able to be accomplished because of a dilemma or deadlock in Parliament. The Prime Minister goes to the Queen and asks for powers to suspend. They call it prorogue Parliament. And asks for the authority to suspend the elected members of Parliament. The Queen can give the authority, they can get it suspended, and then the government will put this act together and then bring them back. Imagine in Liberia, if you say we need a Queen Mother to have that type of power, Liberian people will tell you, say you are primitive, you are backward. Is Canada backward? Is Canada primitive? England are over there. The institution of the royal family, the Queen. Imagine in Liberia, if we say the custodians of our culture, the traditional elders, the souls of the day, each one of them had absolute authority and power and were funded by our government. People would say we are backwards. But the countries that you worship and adore, are they backward? Is Great Britain backward? Is Canada backward? You tell me. Because in Canada, the Queen can suspend Parliament, elected members. In fact, there's something called the throne speech. The Prime Minister gives the speech from the throne, which means brings the message from the Queen. I mean, the Governor General gives the throne speech. Sorry, my apologies. Not the Prime Minister. The Governor General gives the throne speech. They have a very complicated democratic system based on their cultures and value. They did not just go to the United States and photocopy and paste it. No, they contextualize it to make sense for them. Great Britain, same thing. United States of America, same thing. There's a reason why the democratic system between Great Britain and the United States are far. The contrast is huge. It's a very different type of, two different type of democracies. But we worship them, we adore them. When it comes to our own, we argue that it's backward, that it's primitive, that blah, 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 all that kinds of stuff. Right? Let's call a spade a spade. It is the law. The country devil has jurisdiction. We need to develop our systems so that there can be harmony between the formal legal system and the customary legal system. We also need to invest a lot of money into developing the customary legal system. A lot of money, because it's only through investments that we can develop it, fix some of the problems, get rid of some of the flaws, so that it starts to make sense. It makes sense. It survived over 200 years in what is called Liberia today. So it's not going anywhere. The more you start to attack it, you're just setting yourself up for a major conflict, one that you may not be able to withstand. So, ladies and gentlemen, I would say to all of you, again, that as we start to wrap up, there are a few things I would like to reflect on from our last conversation that we had the last time, which was about the miseducation in Liberia. Same thing where I said the University of Liberia should be transformed. Just reflection from our last topic to a technical college. And people come out to argue. And I've argued that the University of Liberia does not have the capacity or the ability to deliver quality education. Now, before you be too harsh, listen to that comment carefully. The University of Liberia does not have the ability nor the capacity to deliver quality education. I did not say the University of Liberia does not have great professors. No, I did not say the University of Liberia does not have great history of delivering quality education. No, I didn't say so. I say currently, in its current form, when the University of Liberia started in 1876 or so, they started as a college, as Liberia College, because it didn't have the capacity to be a full university at the time. It started as Liberia College and it built up to becoming a full university. And we know that LU is the oldest degree granting institution in sub-Saharan Africa. We are aware of that. But guess what? The war came, we damaged it, we destroyed it, and then we came back and just pretended that we can continue from where we stopped. Right? So let's celebrate the history and the record of the University of Liberia, but let's not confuse it. Turn it to a technical college, because at this moment, I think even if you turn it to a technical college, you will still need a major investment to ensure that we can deliver the quality of education a technical college should be able to deliver. Then deceiving all of our young people in Liberia, telling them say they're acquiring degrees. That how can you run a university and confer degrees without having any active ongoing research? I went to the University of Liberia page. How are we conferring BScs with no research? I went to the University of Liberia research page. Go and just Google it right now. Go to the University of Liberia website. Go to the research page. It's blank. And someone even told me that students graduate without having to do major research. How are you able to offer a quality university education without research? No wonder why. When anything happened in Liberia, we're going to come to the West to look for people to go do research for us. Ebola happened, we brought in American researchers and European researchers to come figure out malaria. We bring in everything. Somebody else has to come and do it for us. So how can we be deceiving our kids? And we think that it is okay. No, it's not okay. We need to transform UL to a technical college. And then we can build, and then we'll have the sense of urgency for wanting to build it back to a university. I argue that, and I continue to argue that. I also argue the miseducation of a photocopied school curriculum that we copy from the United States. Because again, we're pretending to be them. We're pretending, running away from ourselves, trying to be everything that we're not. Teaching French in our schools, but you can't teach Pele. Don't get me wrong, the French language is great. In fact, it's a global language. So learning it is an added advantage to you. But trust me, I question my self-value if I don't know how to speak my own dialect. I question my self-value if I can't speak any of my own languages. So let's dig a bit deeper. And this miseducation, in fact, is connected to today, where we're seeing major leaders in our country condemning the country devil for coming and restoring calm in an electoral dispute and seizing a ballot box. What are you talking about? Will you ever condemn the justice minister if he had ordered that to happen? Would you? No, you won't. So then don't condemn the country devil. It's the same miseducation. We keep miseducating our young people. Same thing I said the other day. About politics, we keep miseducating them. A bunch of people running political parties vying for the presidency of Liberia, talking about how they can manage our budget well and do this well, but they can't produce financial report for their small political parties. How does that make any sense? If you can produce financial report for a small political party, if you're not able to keep an active database of your membership, ask any political party, what is the actual number of your legally registered membership of your political party? Ask any political party, what's your annual budget a year? How much money do you raise? How much money do you spend? Ask them, what are your financial reports? How will we be asking people to go do a certain kind of job that we can't ask them to show us now that they can do it? Everybody tells you they want to come to power to build systems. Thank you. Anthony just put it up. This is the research page of the University of Liberia. That's what you're looking at. And then you tell me this is a university that is capable of delivering quality education. You can look on the screen for yourself. If we can manage a website, zero. We don't do any research. How can we be telling our people the university budget is $60 million? It used to be, I think, 17.2. They reduced it to 60 million, right? So we give our lawmakers, our legislators, and all of these people, we give them more money in our budget than our university. Think about it, right? But again, the same issue about the miseducation and political parties. Are there any political party in the Republic of Liberia to produce? How can you be a financial report? How can you be a political party? You say you won't come to power to be government. You won't come to build systems, and you can build system in your own party. And it should be easier to build a system at that level. Build some system in your own party, build system for tracking things, build system for tracking the finances, build system for tracking your membership, and, build systems for conducting your activities. Build those systems at the political level, then we can trust. Now, when you come, Elijah Free 2 Vlog says they don't even have a database system. They don't, forget even database. Let's not use a complicated language. They have no system of tracking the members of their party. You can just jump out today, you jump behind a party. You say you are a member of that party. The only ones they can profile are the high profile one. Political parties, those of you who are members, all of my good friends, some of you very well, good, trusted friends that are. Please send me your Look, I can't be here with all the education and exposure that we've gotten, with all the systems of governance we've been exposed to. Then you go to Liberia and form a political party or join the political party that does voodoo economics. Because voodoo economics is where we just see you spending money, but nobody know how you got it. We don't know how much you spend, how much of it you spend. That is voodoo economics. It's not possible. You can do that with us. We can do that. Y'all tell us. And then they make it look like they're doing you're in a political party, they're doing you a favor. You're not doing anybody a favor. When you join an organization, it is part of your responsibility to support it financially. That is the reason why there should be a transparent process of how this financial support of the organization works. Show the financial report. If there is one man that's contributing 80% of that, then that one man has great influence because we can see on the records. You buying, as soon as somebody become chairman of an opera, we see them buying pickups, trucks. Where does the money come from? What if it's blood money? What if it's corrupt money? What if it's terrorism money? How do you know where it comes from? Right? But we all trust that these people will come to power and they will miraculously transform overnight. And they will be good custodians of our budgets. And they will be great custodians of budget performance reports. And they will be great custodians of integrity. You have no integrity. How can you be running a political party? You say you can build systems. How can you be running a political party? You say you're able to provide financial accountability. But we can't even see, you're not able to produce and these political parties, some of them got like what? CPAs, chartered accountants. You think about it, financial experts are in them. And they're not embarrassed at the fact that they're not able to track their own finances annually and produce financial reports. If that doesn't scare the crap out of you for somebody who's coming to take over your country, and then when these people take over, you start to ask them to do the impossible. They ask them, we want budgetary performance report. We want a budget itemized and blah, blah, blah. You saw budget when they were in a political party. Did you see a political party budget with them? Did you see them produce a budget? Did you see them manage one? No, you did not. But you expect them to perform voodoo when they come to political power. Look, here's the thing about leadership. You cannot give what you don't have. What you have will be innately and naturally implemented regardless of where you are. When you can cook fufu, whether that in New York, you're cooking it on the stove or you're cooking it in a microwave, or whether that in Grand Basso County, Buchanan, you're cooking it on firewood, you can cook fufu. Doesn't matter where they get you fufu, you will cook it. If you are transparent and you know how to build system, it does not matter whether you're the president of the high school press club association, or you chairlady or chairwoman of the community association, or you leader of the political party. You will do it naturally because that's who you are, that's what you do. You can't keep giving us these voodoo explanations of what you would do, what you would do. No, some of you have been political leader now for 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. You still can show us the systems that you've built in your political party. But you keep telling us you can build system for the country. How? At least a political party, all of y'all follow one thing, y'all agree to the same thing. It should be easy to build stuff. When you come to the national leadership, where there are contrasting views in all sectors? How are you going to put everybody together to build system when you can build it in a place where everybody agree? Help me understand. I may be wrong. I may be missing something. So you guys can educate me on that. But ladies and gentlemen, it's been another great time here with the Liberian Dream. I want to close by saying this. The best response to criticism is performance. It's not rhetorics. It's not big mouth. It's not empty talk. And I want to say this to you. Since 1847, we've tried to change our nation for the better through government and through politicians and through political leaders. It hasn't worked. It's about time to start trying something different. It's time to start trying it from building from the grassroots up. You cannot play bitter ball and reap palm nuts. Our society at the grassroots has been neglected. We've neglected our individual responsibilities at the family level, at the community association level, at the church level. We've neglected it. And because of that, we are only guaranteeing ourselves to produce more corrupt leaders. It's time to change the strategy. It's time to stop wasting our time on the next elections. It's time to start building for 20 years at the grassroots level. It's time to start investing in our children. It's time to start investing in our little community associations. It's time to start investing in our churches. It's time to start holding our churches accountable. Holding our high schools that our children go to accountable rather than bribing them. It's time to start understanding who we are, embracing ourselves, including our traditional societies, including our culture, working hard to make it better than dismissing it. Because it is only that that will lead us to a different type of Liberia that we all yearn so much. So I urge you today, don't listen to what people have to tell you. Let them show you what their proof is. If you can build system, build it in your political party and let's see it. If you can practice financial accountability and transparency, show us in your political party. Let's see your audited financial reports. It's been another great period here with the Liberian Dream. My name is Leo Napolo Johnson, and I came to you live from the beautiful city of Hamilton in Ontario, Canada. Have yourself a beautiful, beautiful new week, and I look forward to connecting with you again in 2 weeks as we continue to build on the Liberian Dream. Thank you to all of our viewers. Thank you to Focus on Liberia for giving us this beautiful platform where we can come and share our ideas, share our thoughts, and provide questions that we all can think about. Because first of all, Liberia should be our only permanent and permanent political party. We all, regardless of what medium you come at it, should focus on how we can make our country better and not our individual institutions that are in clash with where we should go for a future. I will say it again, and I've said it many times. The next election is not going to do much in changing Liberia because you cannot have 100 apples and making apple juice and 90 of those apples are rotten. And you expect that because 10 of them are good, the apple juice will be a rotten apple juice, regardless of how much sugar or honey you put in it. Until you can increase the number of good apples, your chances of a rotten apple juice is really strong. Here's what happened in 2023. After the first round of the elections, whoever seems like they're going to win, all the people you call corrupt will jump to their side because they need your support to win. Once they win, they have to bring the same people back into the fray. And what result you think you're going to get? As a result, what result? That's why we must build from the ground up. We cannot keep relying on a miraculous leader that will appear one day from heaven. Even the current setup in Liberia, you give it to Jesus Christ will struggle because Jesus does not like to do voodoo. God is not a voodoo priest. God likes to work with the grassroots. God likes to work with the things that you give him to work with. Ask Cain and Abel when they offer offerings to God. If you give God good offerings, God will multiply and give it back to you. You give him crappy and bad offering, he multiplies your bad offering and give it back to you. So ladies and gentlemen, let's not put our hopes in the next election. Don't allow anybody to mislead you with a bunch of political parties that are running that don't have any financial accountability to show you. But they promise you that when they get to power, then they will show you it. Don't get misled. Let's remain focused on the grassroots. Let's remain focused on our families, on our children, on our community, on our schools, on our churches, on our mosques. These are where we have an opportunity to build very strong institutions because these will be the institutions that will eventually inform who rises to the top or the people that get to the top to become leaders. The Liberian Dream is a project that I started under the Cool Leadership Academy. I know some of you are asking. And we've been training, providing leadership training in Liberia. We've just completed the training of our first cohort. Some of them are on here. I see Robertson Boylan and John Wycliffe who participated in the first cohort training, where we are training young leaders in Liberia to understand that political leadership is no longer the solution to our problem in Liberia. That we all need to build a dream in Liberia where the participation of everybody, whether you're in Zogoi, whether you're in Nimba, whether you're in Bon, whether you're in Lofa, whether you're in Grand Cape Mall, whether you're in Maryland, it does not matter. We should be able to provide the education, the investment, and the opportunity so that all of our children are not trying to become politicians. So all of them can carve out, and those ones that can become politicians can become politicians. But we need to start building from the grassroots. You cannot build systems from the national government when you get there. We need to start building the systems from the grassroots. In our very churches, we need systems there. In our mosques, we need systems. In our community associations, we need systems. In our homes, we need systems. Because it is the practice of those good systems that we build at those levels that will allow us to rise to the top. And that will allow us to be accountable with those type of practices when we get into national leadership, or when we become president, or when we become anything else. So, ladies and gentlemen, I continue to make this argument. We cannot rely on a system that serves 20 to 25% of our population to remain the order of the day. We must broaden the space. We must broaden the argument. We must broaden all of our resources. And our greatest resources are not gold, are not the diamonds, not the iron ore, not the timber, not the rubber, not even oil if you find them. The greatest resource of our nation are young people, our youth. So the sooner we can start to pivot our attention to pay attention to our greatest resource and greatest asset as a country, the better we will be. The more we pay attention to the less important resources that gold, diamond, iron ore, and timber, the more trouble we'll be in. Because I'll give you an example. The more those resources, natural resources, multiply and become abundance, the more we are at the danger of going to full-scale war, because we've neglected the people who we're supposed to develop, empower to take advantage of those resources. Because so what it becomes now an opportunity for conflict. It becomes now a seed that we can use to fight over, because we all don't even realize that we are destroying our greatest asset as a nation, which is our people, our young people especially, for short-term gains of how much money we can rack up and put in our bank accounts. Anthony, are you there?
Yes, Leo, I'm here.
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been another beautiful evening of the Liberian Dream. I hope you enjoy your new week, and I look forward to connecting again. My name is Leo Napolo Johnson, and I came to you from the beautiful city of Hamilton in Ontario, Canada. Have a good week.
We are Liberian. Liberia is our